It's preparing.
There we go. I think it's live. I've just had a flash come up. So anyway, we'll get started anyway while that resolves. So welcome everyone. This is the March meeting of Sandymore Parish Council. Hopefully you've got agendas ahead of you. If not, they are published in the normal places and you can get hold of them there. We've got a reasonably packed agenda tonight, and I want to give lots of time to the key places that we've got, so I will be rushing through and proceeding at pace. First of all on the agenda is to record apologies for absence. Bernie, who have we had?
The PCSO Debs Bromley, she's on a rest day today. She will be attending our April meeting. I do have a report from her. And Simon Hurst is not joining us tonight.
Brilliant, thank you. So do we have any declarations of interest, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary, with from the councillors who are on the agenda tonight?
No, none.
I don't think there's any matter of the school coming up, but if there is, my wife sometimes works at the school, so I would have to declare an interest if it did. And if that happens, we'll probably need to think about what we do about chair. But I don't think that's going to be an issue coming up. So first item on the agenda is the Sandymore Police report. Have we received the report?
So there was only one report this month that the police have come back with, and that was on the 15th of March. A male was seen taking photographs of property and vehicle on Bisham Park. CCTV inquiries were ongoing. Now I've had an update from that, from Debbie today, to say apparently the male was taking a photograph for a friend who was interested in renting a room at the property, and so nothing sinister to report on that one. There's still complaints over the Vistry construction traffic, so Debs is going to call in again and have a word with them. And there's no update on the Swans Reach issue, where a man was being chased by police from last month that we asked her about. She said it was ongoing, so she couldn't talk about it. She said that there isn't any update on that, but to reassure the residents that there was no ongoing issue and that she would patrol the area a bit more just to make sure that residents felt a bit safer. That's it.
Have we got, as have councillors got any questions they wish to relay to our police colleagues? We haven't seen them for a while, so it'd be good to address anything.
I've had no questions through regarding any police matters around the estate.
I think it'd be nice to send a message to remind them that our meeting doesn't actually change in time, so we should know ahead of time whether they're coming or not. It shouldn't be a surprise the week before.
Yes, yeah, they're aware of all the meeting dates.
Well, so it'd be good to know if they're coming next time quite soon. So. Okay, so the fourth item on our agenda is the guest speakers. So we have two this evening. We have the local centre developers from, is it Lane Ends you're from?
Yeah, that's right, Lane End.
Superb. And then we have Paul Wright from Open Space Services. So we will start off with the local centre. How do you guys want to do it? Have you got a presentation? Have you got a speech to give to us and then invite questions in? Or?
Yeah, could I just ask my colleague, if that's okay, to share her screen? Lauren, could you share the screen so they can see some of the queries, what we've received, and we've put together a response to that. So I'd like to present that, really.
Well,
if I can just have access to screen sharing, that would be great.
Yeah, you've got that now.
Thank you.
In hindsight, it probably would have been good to share this ahead of the meeting, but you know, in the name of kind of due diligence and all that, I want to just put it here and now, so no one else has seen this apart from myself, Lauren, and the construction director, and Land Director from Lane End Group. So they are key stakeholders for the business.
Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
So you can see here that there's information requested from local residents. The first one being the timeline of the build, which is obviously 18 months, if not sooner, but that 18 months is what we've got earmarked for. The second question, are the units allocated? Are all the units allocated, I should say? Can you advise who's going to move into those units? As we see from the response, the 6 retail units with a co-op, and I think everyone's familiar with what the cooperative is about. There's a vet's confirmed as well. Further information regarding the retail units, that's to be confirmed at this moment in time. As soon as I've got that information, we will share that with you. The next question was a change to planning. Shows the nursery will not be in this phase. So you can see the answer there is the nursery will follow towards the end of the development, and at present there's no operator in place. As we move down,
within the 18 months of the full build, or is it later on after the 18 months, just for clarity?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Is that when you say towards the end of the development, is that within the 18 months you're expecting, or is
Yes.
that okay?
Yeah, towards the end of the development of the 18-month period. So that is when we think it's likely to come about. The next question, though, you can see the information requested from the hall, what safety measure will be in place, and just speaking on behalf of the company Lane End Group, safety is the absolute paramount. And I mentioned this to some of your stakeholders, certainly the ladies in the nursery, about our sister site in Hertford College in Northwich, where we've got circa around about 800, 900 pupils passing our doors every day, and that's managed at all kind of touch points from 8 a.m. in the morning, from 7:30 in the morning, when people would be arriving at school, then the rush hour, then lunchtime, then obviously the 3 o'clock period too and beyond. So this is the level of detail which we do go into at Lane End, especially with safety and parents, children, everything like that, members of the public. So it is important to us. So this is why we put this paragraph in place, which is, we'll see the site welfare cabins and compound area has been arranged to be in situ along the fence that is adjacent to the pre-school. So I think everyone will be familiar with that. This is to avoid any works taking place close to the perimeter fence. There will be netting alongside the fence. Our fencing at the front of the hall will have hoarding with viewing windows for the children. Already there's been an expression of interest from the local preschool, where the children have took a real keen eye and interest in some of the work what we're doing there. So, and that could be to the kind of educational advantage, I would say, and a benefit. The area, as you can imagine, I'll just finish the area, as you can imagine, be locked and manned at all times. Someone got a question?
Ian, yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
What is the planning consent for the balance of the retail units then?
I just said the 6 retail units. There's going to be a co-op and a vet's confirmed. We haven't got any.
What is the actual planning consent for the units? Is it for hot food takeaway? Is it open A1 consent?
There's one hot food takeaway, and the rest.
I haven't got that.
I have to come back to you on that information.
Well, that's factual. I was at the meeting when they approved it. So factual was one hot food takeaway, which I believe there was a verbal update requested different to that, but what was actually granted was a single one. And then the rest were either live retail space or could be sit-in restaurants.
Right, okay.
Okay, we don't have details on that, unfortunately.
For those who are interested, it's on Halton Borough Council's website on the planning grant.
Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Yes, of course, Jan.
Ian, when you say that there's only the co-op and the vets that have been confirmed,
Yeah.
a lot of residents have shown interest in the units. But when I sent the information through to Ed and Scott, was told that they had all been allocated, so they didn't want any more requests at that time for the
Okay.
units. Is that still the same, or are you now wanting to look at different individuals for those units?
That could well be the case. I'm probably going to have to come back to you on that. I don't want to say something which is untrue or a falsehood here, so I'm going to have to come back to you on that. As it stands, obviously, as of today, and we've been working with Scott on this. He's confirmed that, obviously, as in the question, there's the answer should say the 6 retail units with co-op and vets confirmed. So, reading between the lines, could there be something there? I would say potentially yes, but again, I'd have to come back to you on it.
Yeah, if you come back to me and I can forward all the details of those that have specifically asked if there's any units. Most have been hairdressers and beauticians, as you can imagine, in this sort of area. So whether the units can be split, or because I know one of the units is bigger, isn't it, than the others? So
Right, that's right.
yeah,
That's
so
right.
whether that can be split.
Can we just put the plan back up again, please? As I didn't really have much time to see it.
Of course, this is just a brief logistics plan of the site. So how we will set the site up during development. So as you can see, just at the back here, the compound area for the site where the welfare will be is where the preschool play area is. So that's just to avoid any direct work being close to them there. And you can see there where the walkway is for our site, and the restricted area that will be left for your use for parking temporarily. Our site team are being asked not to park or put any plant on that restricted area in yellow there.
Can you just, I saw mention of the compound when you were talking about the safety against the preschool fence. What's going to be in that area of land after you've finished? So when your site welfare area, etc., has been removed, what is it? Is it just going to be grass? What's going to be there?
That's the nursery, is it not?
I haven't got the drawings in front of me, so I can't give you that answer, unfortunately. It's something which, again, I can confirm and I can communicate that to you either tomorrow.
I think it is where the nursery is meant to be, Ian.
So the areas on that map where the compound is, it's the nursery with the outdoor play area behind it.
Yeah.
And the restricted area is the car parking for Sandymore Hall long term.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, the restricted area is where parking and access for the hall will be temporarily, yes, until the car park is built for the co-op and retail areas, which you can see there, just on Otterburn Street.
Temporary.
That's just during the development phase until we get the groundworks in, and that restricted area will be for access, just temporarily.
And after the temporary access is over, you've got the car park in place again. What will that restricted area contain?
I haven't got the plans in front of me, I'm afraid. I think that is going to be part of the apartment block, which is the next phase.
I thought that bit was the car park for the hall.
That's
Yes.
been approved.
Can you just say again, the restricted area in yellow, is that where your vehicles are going to be parked? Is that the access for your vehicles?
No, that's restricted from our subcontractors and vehicles. It's going to be restricted in terms of that is your access and temporary parking.
Right.
Bernadette, I can just see. Sorry, Paul Hazeldean's got his hand up.
Not surprised.
Right,
I think you might
do we-
have something to offer. Yeah.
Paul, do you want to speak now, or do you want Ian to carry on first?
I'm just writing notes. So if Ian wants to carry on,
Okay.
or I'm happy to address some of the things that have been cropped up and the questions that kind of been answered, but you know, so I can either wait for the end or
Yeah,
throw it
let's
in.
do that then.
I'll rattle through this, Paul, and any questions we're more than happy to take. In terms of the next one there, you'll see the site is being secured currently with perimeter fencing. There'll be an open area for Sandymore Hall parking. Sandymore Fete is the next one. You can see that it's scheduled for September the 4th. At the last fete, we saw 1,500 people across the village green and the hall. Otterburn Street was closed to cars except stall holders, male voice choir, etc. In response to that, access will be for construction traffic and pedestrian access to Sandymore Community Hall only. The next one, Otterburn Street is used to access the hall for the preschool. Both cars and pedestrians. Will access be continued? Will it be safe? From what we spoke about, the answer is yes. Delivery vehicles will be arranged at suitable times to avoid peak drop-off and pick-up times at the preschool. There will be additional measures made to ensure surroundings are observed when unloading material. We employ gateman to manage site access and to ensure safe entering of all vehicles. Lauren, could you just take the last point, if you don't mind?
About the contact details.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So we've got our project manager, Rob Clark, on site, and our construction manager, Chris Moss. So we've given you our office number there and email address, but we do have an out of hours number that I'm just getting confirmed for you, as we do have 24/7 man security when the site is closed. So those details will be shared with you so that you call in case there's any emergencies, and they're on a response, you know, to sort that out. But in terms of kind of any other questions you've got, you know, Ian and I are on hand to answer those, so I will share my email address with you. Otherwise, you know, or anybody in the office, which is the number there, will be available to talk you through any concerns or questions if you are unable to get hold of the project manager or construction manager. But they will be based on site. You know, we do say that our site door is always open. You know, so we do have a pedestrian access, and we'll have like a bell on there and things. So if you are passing and you do see anything of concern that you want to talk about, the site team are on site to talk to you.
Can you also put that on a presentation or something that I can put in our notice boards? And then, you know, if someone wants to take your number down, we've got a notice board on the village green that people can see.
Yes, of course. We've got a newsletter that we will keep you up to date with newsletters as well.
Yeah.
I'll just show you a brief of the first one that we've done for you. So we will keep you up to date with newsletters that you can share on your notice board, which is directly about the site. So this will be printed, and we'll give you copies directly. If you want to give me the details of where I can send those to, that would be great.
If you can do them one-sided though, because if they're going in a notice board, obviously they can't be two-sided.
Yes, of course, no problem. Okay. We will have a community board on the site perimeter as well that you'll be able to see when you walk past with information on. So here you can see our site team as well, who will be based on site that you can talk to. So there's also some imagery to show the community what it will look like when it's completed. So all of this I will send to you, Bernadette, if you wanted to pass that on to everybody else. We can get that printed as well and sent to you. There's also information in there as well about career opportunities. I mean, obviously, just going off a sort of tangent as that came up.
Lauren, we've lost you.
Oh, sorry.
Lost your voice.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yes, so we will communicate continually with you via newsletters, and direct point of contact being the site team and myself and Ian as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Did you want to move on to some questions?
So I suppose what I'd like to do is open it up for questions to councillors first of all, and then I'll open it up to the wider public after that. So councillors, do you have any questions for the team?
I've got a question. So with regard to the community hall, is there anything that that you can do for them during this process?
Yeah, I can probably answer that one for you. In terms of Lane End Group, we've got a social enterprise called Lane End New Beginnings, which is an integral part of what we do as a business. I'd encourage you to have a look at on the website, because you'll see there what we're all about. We're not one of these house builders who come in, do what we need to do and disappear. That's absolutely not us. We're not a big tier one builder. We build with respect, with the community at the centre. And in terms of other projects, what we've done, have a look on our online. I'm not going to go through all the different cases now, but they are plentiful. There's loads of stuff what we've done. In terms of the centre itself, absolutely. Yeah, and I think we said this all along from our directors when they met with Paul. I think Paul can vouch for this. We will come in and lend a helping hand, definitely.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, how long's a piece of string? In terms of what needs to be done, Paul will have a better idea than I. I think it's a case of getting a meeting set up. We can come in as a business. We can look at whether there's some maintenance needs to be done, whether there's some kitchens need to be replaced, or there's some roof tile needs to be replaced. Whatever it may be, that case can be put to us, and we can go away and consider it, and then come back to you.
Okay. My second question, if I can just hog the space for a minute, Adam, is there's been joy expressed by the community that at long last they're getting a local shop, which is clearly great news. But in the same breath, they're also worried and concerned that it'll be a hub for a magnet for maybe activity going on which is less than desirable. What security measures, other than the ones that the retailers might put in place, will you be building into the infrastructure?
At this stage, I can't possibly comment on what that looks like, I'm afraid to say, Steve. It's something what I can take away and come back to you on. Again, I don't want to give you a misrepresentation or a falsehood there in terms of what my response would be, but I can take that away, and Lauren's made some notes in the background of what you need. We'll come back to you with the response, but I do understand your question, definitely, and your concern.
Right. I think it's just about making it a safe place kind of night and day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important to us. I'll just refer back to me previous kind of monologue there, what I was saying, and we are considerate contractors. We pride ourselves on the work we do in the community. We are kind of governed members of the CCS scheme. We've all seen them big considerate constructors signs outside building sites. We take that incredibly seriously. On the past couple of scores we've had, they're outstanding figures, and that covers everything, Steve, from security to appearance to what you do in the community to engagement to working with neighbours. It's everything, and I'm pleased to say that we are one of the leading companies in the Northwest in this area.
Well, are you working with our PCSO, Deb Bromley, on this?
Sorry, what? I didn't get that.
Are you working with our PCSO, Deb Bromley? Unfortunately, she can't be
no.
here tonight, but
Not as yet, but we would very much welcome that.
Bernadette, can you set that up, please?
Yeah, I will.
We heard details, Bernadette. That would be
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll pass those on to you.
That's it, Adam. Sorry for taking so much time up.
Oh, no worries. Good question, Steve. Anything else from councillors before I open it up?
May I ask a question?
Of course you can.
On your presentation, Ian, you said
Yeah.
that on the 4th of September for the fete, there wouldn't be access, and then there would only be pedestrian access. And then further down, you said there would be access to the hall. Will that be vehicular access? Because obviously if they're dropping off at preschool, they've got little ones. They're going to need somewhere to be able to park to get into the hall on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the preschool's been existing for a long, long time, and I've spoke to the ladies involved in that. We're not going to come in and start prohibiting access in terms of, we understand, you know, I'm a parent myself with 2 kids, and understand the need for vehicles to get close to there so you can actually drop it off, and there's all other things which throws up really. And you know, what I would say is we're here to work with you.
Yeah,
that is the main thing, Bernadette, which I want to get across tonight, is that we're not some T1 organisation coming in with our big plant machinery and having no consideration for the likes of yourselves and your parishioners. Absolutely not us. We are respectful in what we do, and we will work with you through this journey.
okay. Thank you.
It is vehicle access. I've just checked that information. So it will be vehicle access only to the hall, and for construction traffic.
Okay, thanks.
Well, so
That's it, thanks.
I'd like to open it up if any members of the public would like to speak. I believe we've had some questions in from Paul ahead of time, so it makes sense to go to Paul first. But if anyone else wants to use the raise hand function on Zoom, that would be welcome, and we'll get to you. It's within the reactions tab at the bottom.
Hi, good evening. Councillors, Councillor Bradshaw, Lauren and Ian. Lauren, is it possible, can I just apologise that my title says Lindsay? I don't normally answer to Linz unless it's a Sunday afternoon. Lauren, could you put the questions and answers back up, please?
Is there a particular question you'd like me to pull up?
Could you say that again, Lauren? Sorry.
Is there a particular question you'd like me to pull up?
Yeah, the ones that are submitted surrounding the hall. Okay. Right, the safety measures along the fence line, you've talked about netting. Could I suggest, obviously netting is flimsy, could I suggest that's boarding?
Absolutely. If you want boarding, we can absolutely accommodate that. In terms of the netting, it's you know, we're not talking the netting which you catch little goldfish in. You know, this is sturdy stuff. But if you want boarding, absolutely, we can sort that out. Not a problem at all.
Yeah, I kind of, and I take your point that it's going to be the compound, but compounds can be noisy. Materials are stored there. I'm hoping it's non-hazardous. Things that are going to be kept on the other side of that fence. It's not just. Can I just say it's not just the preschool. When we get through COVID, the community hall is you know, it hosts blimey, guides, brownies, rainbows, Hornborough Council Cancer Care. There's a whole raft of people that will be coming through the hall once we're through COVID. So at this moment in time, yes, the preschool are the priority. Of course they are. But after that, and when we get through COVID and the community hall is thriving again, hopefully well within the 18-month build plan. As I say, it's the preschool of one stakeholder. We have many stakeholders.
Indeed, no, I absolutely appreciate that, Paul. And like I just said before, we are here to work with you and whatever groups you have going into there. And I can understand why you do get heavy football and people going in there, because it is a community hub, and we feel what we're going to provide is going to enhance that even more.
Yeah, good. Because the community hall, and I presented to a couple of the directors probably about 2-3 years ago. Greatest respect to the WI, which is a fantastic institution.
Yes.
But the community hall it thrives. It thrives. And as I say, I know you've talked to the preschool, but there are plenty of other stakeholders that are involved in this.
Absolutely, and we would love to speak with them. What we'll do is try and encourage those channels of communication with those people, so they can understand what we're about as well, because we do a lot of work with not-for-profit organisations, and can you imagine, Paul, some of these people do fall under that umbrella. So again, please share my details and the details of my colleagues with those involved in the actual hall itself, Paul, because we feel we can bring something to those groups as well.
Okay. So the second question there: when do you envisage changing the fence, gates, lawn, and hard standing to create a car park at the side of the hall? The answer that you've said is the site is being secured currently by perimeter fence. That's absolutely right. That's the fencing to the community hall. There will be an open area for Sandymore Hall parking as a goodwill gesture. Okay, so a couple of things on that. At the moment, our access points are two. We have a pedestrian access as you look at the hall to the left for pedestrians, and over on the far right, there is access for loading, unloading, for supplies, for waste disposal, all of that. Now on the plans, as you look at the hall, the double gates to service that are going to be moved to the left of centre. In other words, close to the personal gate. And the discussions that we had with Rob Stratton 2.5-3 years ago was to take the lawn, move the gates, the double gates, and put the lawn that's at the front of the hall to tarmac. Okay, and then dustbin lorries, whatever, people loading, services, supplies, maintenance drive in through the double gates, across the front of the hall and to the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, part of it is tarmac, part of it is hardcore, probably half of it is how would I put it, overgrown. And we discussed with Rob, and Rob basically offered that there could be hard standing all on that right hand side. Now, Ian, after this, you kindly phoned me earlier on. Brilliant. I want to get you on site so that we can talk about the changes and talk about when these things are going to happen. So again, my question: when do you envisage changing the fence, the gates, the lawn, the hard standing, etc.? That question still stands. Yes, I know the site is being secured currently. It has been done since 2003. But let's get you on site and let's see what the timeline is for those changes.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to come to site and speak with yourselves and any of the colleagues on the call, actually, to go through things. And we've got a construction director, Mick Cunningham, who is absolutely heavily involved in every single lane-end job. That's the way he likes to do business. So you'll be speaking to the very top guy in our business. the only person above him is the managing director, Richard Harrison, as well. But Mick deals with all the construction elements of it. If there's any changes, queries, whatever we need to do, we can sort through it. What I can't guarantee is that everything's we can start changing things or whatever, but we can have the conversation and whatever we need to do, we'll certainly have the conversation. And I think you can hopefully gather from myself and Lauren here, we are here to listen to you and to work with you to make sure that we impact in the right way.
No, I totally respect that. Richard is more than welcome to bring the MD down.
I'll get him down.
I think everything I've mentioned is not changing what has been discussed. I'm not changing anything because obviously it's been passed. It is literally just making sure that what we discussed 2.5 years ago with Rob actually gets implemented. Lauren, could you put the map of the car parks, etc., up there?
Go.
Yeah. So where the it says restricted area.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, at this moment in time, I totally appreciate what you're doing. That's a restricted area for parking to the hall. I appreciate that. At some point, that restricted area, because I think on one of the plans, becomes a car park.
Yes, that's right. I'm not sure at what point that is yet. As I said, I think the programme of works is still being lined out at the moment.
Yeah.
So
because the road,
yes,
where it's Lauren, where it says road, that's the road into the compound, isn't it? That, as my understanding was on one of the plans, that will become the plaza. So at some point that becomes a plaza, and the restricted area in front of the hall does become a car park. And again, my understanding from questions that I've asked in the past is that the car park is not for the community hall, it is for all public use.
I am not sure on that one. I will have to check if that's okay. No,
I mean, listen, check by all means, but you know, if it becomes devoted to the community hall, I think the committee at the hall would be very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to check that information. Some of this information is obviously still being ironed out a little bit. Well, it's all there, but it's still being passed through to my colleagues and I as we come onto site. So I'll have to get back to you on that one, Paul.
No, that's fine.
As I said, we will gather all of the questions that we've not been able to answer tonight and to speak to you as soon as we can once we get those. Okay.
Okay. And one final point to both Ian and Lauren is, and Ian, I touched on this in our conversation a few hours ago, is that Otterburn Street is not just for Sandymore Community Hall and the nursery and those that use the hall. Otterburn Street has been adopted by how do we put it, Sandymonians? Is that the right term, parish councillors, Sandymonians? But Otterburn Street has been adopted by, blimey, parents dropping off at the hall, absolutely, people attending the hall, by football clubs on a Saturday morning, by parents going to the playground, by running groups, by parents dropping off on Otterburn Street for Sandymore School. So when Lauren and Ian, you're talking about welfare of access and those attending the hall, Otterburn Street, please be aware that Sandymore has adopted that road for a multiple of uses. And I think you might get surprised by the amount of volume of traffic down there.
Okay. Well, that's something that we'll absolutely monitor. And funnily enough, I had a conversation with one or two members of our site team actually today, about monitoring the kind of the footfall traffic, the usage, to ensure that we've got everything we need in terms of the information. So yeah, I think we will be quite surprised from what you're saying, Paul, in terms of the number of people going down it. But one thing, what I will say is that safety is absolutely the paramount thing for us.
Yeah,
we will make sure that is a safe route.
Just be aware that at this moment, the amount of traffic that's down there is diluted. Children have only just gone back to Sandymore School.
Yeah.
Football clubs cannot operate until, I've forgotten when lockdown rules ease.
Come April the 12th, we're expecting things to spike. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even without the football and without the other uses on the village green, Otterburn Street is a core connection between different parts of Sandymore. I mean, that's why the community centre is there. It is the centre of the estate, and the links through to Warford Lane, the school, and all the housing in that side, down to the other direction to Pittsheath Lane. Otterburn Street is, is always going to be a thoroughfare because it joins up two parts of Sandymore. So yeah, I mean, what Paul says is right. There's going to be a lot of footfall along there.
Traders as well. We've had quite a number of traders wanting to park up and use Otterburn Street. That obviously hasn't been allowed at the moment because it was private land. Well, it still is private land. So just to be aware that you might have the odd trader that also tries to sneak down there because it's the centre of Sandymore.
Okay.
I suspect the odd burger wagon would probably go down rather well with the builders that are on site at the moment.
I mean, yeah, I do know that a couple of our sites have those on, have them on site, So, we'll just see what kind of happens with our compound area, and if they wanted to contact us, perhaps it's something we could look at for our site team.
To be honest with you, Lauren, I'm not sure Bernadette's comments were to encourage trade.
No.
I think Bernadette was warning you that you might get inquiries that you might have to dismiss.
Okay, no problem.
Absolutely, and just to add, I can't remember who said it, gentleman before. I'm a local guy myself. I only live over the water in Widnes. I've got friends and family who live in Sandymore, so I've been doing my little bit of homework really on the area. So I know how important some of these issues are, Paul, which you've mentioned there. So I just wanted to throw that into the mix as well.
Yeah.
Ian, I will be in touch and I will take you around Sandymore Hall. Just to pick up on Steve's comment before, Sandymore Hall was built in 2003. There are bits dropping off it. Both on the inside and the outside. We've had fascias redone, so it looks a little bit smarter. We managed finally to get that done. However, there are things that do need doing. So I will walk you around there with a shopping list. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
We've had a question in the chat from a lady about, you said the work will take approximately 18 months. When does that clock start? Has it started already, or is it
the clock is ticking from as of this week. So okay. as soon as there was boots on the ground, that's when the clock is ticking.
So September 22, is that your target?
If not before, we've got a very stiff taskmaster in Mr. Cunningham, who's the construction director. So we'll be looking to do an absolutely quality and thorough job, by the way. But we will look to do it in the safest possible manner and keep everybody happy and all the stakeholders involved along the way. That's the main objective for us, really.
I think that'd be welcome. The community are desperate for a shop and a centre, so I think that would be welcome.
Absolutely. I've been speaking to a few locals actually on that point about the co-op, and there was a lady on the way up to the school. I had to walk through and had a 25-minute conversation with her about the need for a local shop. She's got 2 young kids, which she has to put in the car every time they run out of bread or milk, and that to me isn't great, especially for a young mum juggling COVID. So I can see these things really helping.
Yeah, it'd be a massive benefit to the community, I think, once it's finished, as long as we can get through these issues.
Yeah.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak around the local centre at this time? I can't see any hands up. I'm sorry if I've missed someone.
Oh,
You all right, John?
Wasn't sure if you fell over, John. No.
I did. I just wanted to ask a question about this restricted area in front of the village hall. A number of times tonight, it's been said that it's only restricted temporarily, like it's going to be for something else. And apart from the little road in there, it's going to be a very restricted access to the village hall with nowhere to park for them. And I've just not understood what the intent is for that restricted area in the plans of the company doing the development.
In terms of that, instead of kind of yourself giving you an answer over a Zoom call, I'd probably like to invite you down to the site and I can walk you through it. Or not me, it'll be one of my colleagues who can do that for you.
Yeah, I'd be fine. I'd be quite happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, does everybody else understand what is likely to be the case?
I'm just trying to find the plans that got approved. I've got them on here and I can chuck them on the screen because it is car parking there.
Yes, that was my understanding from the earlier discussion, that during the construction it'll be car parking for the hall, but that when everything is finished and wrapped up, it'll just be car parking, which I interpret to mean car parking for the community, for the local centre in general.
I've got the amended plans, which were the ones approved. So Lauren, if you can stop your screen sharing, I can chuck them up.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that was Paul Hazeldine's point earlier when he was drilling down into that question.
Can I just ask while Adam's loading that, those bungalows, is the entrance going to be off Pitseath Lane? Yeah.
No, that's the plans
15
that were
spaces
approved.
there.
So it is additional parking. I don't think it has been restricted to purely the hall though. I think it is just open to the public as much as the 78 spaces were. From memory of the planning committee, I believe that was necessary to pass the planning hurdles for a development of this size. But whether through custom and practice that could end up being the whole car park, that could be an interesting thing to see if it develops that way.
Well, as long as it's not restricted from them.
No,
yeah.
It's not restricted at all. Paul?
Yeah, Adam, that's my understanding completely. That the 15 spaces are, and the 70, God, my eyes aren't what they used to be, 78 spaces to the left in front of the retail units, that they are all public access. We did ask in the early days that could a car park for the hall, in front of the hall, could that be devoted? Could we put a barrier across it? But no, that is all public car parking spaces, which is where, and thanks, that's brilliant, Adam, because the double gates that are on there, you can see just left of centre, means that the any access to the hall is now not on the right, as everybody will be familiar with, but is now to the left of centre. So dustbin lorries,
turn right and go around.
Long wheel-based vehicles go through those double gates. The lawn that is in front of the community hall is going to be tarmacked, and we were told that would be at no expense to the hall. So they go through the double gates, turn right, and then potentially, and again, Ian, I'll get you on site, to the right of the hall, that big area to the right, which consists of 30%, yeah, thank you, 30% tarmac, hardcore, and at the back, Adam, if you could wiggle that again, where the overgrowth, thank you very much, where the overgrown areas, that there is a possibility that that could be I can't remember the exact words, I'd have to dig my emails out, but that would be made into hard standing.
Oh,
So I think, you know, so the 15 spaces, it is all public. Those 15 spaces are public. Our concerns originally, and Ian, we're taking you on this journey now. Our concerns were that the 15 spaces, if we needed to get, well, sorry, when wheelie bins need to be emptied, that we can get through those, and all those discussions have been taking place. So the 15 spaces in short is not devoted to the hall.
given the nature though of this kind of retail, 78 spaces is probably quite a lot for the public, I would have thought.
I've got a feeling 91 was the magic number based on the size of the units. And it just goes over that using the 15, because that was set by planning statute, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 91 seems like a lot for a co-op and half a dozen small retail spots. So hopefully most people will use the large space on the left, but what we're saying is that those 15 are by no means dedicated or restricted. If the community hall users get there and there's space, they can park there, but if there isn't, they can't. That's the summary.
I believe it was one of the conditions about putting things like electric chargers in the car park. Have you made any developments with that at Lane
End? That's something we have done on a number of our schemes actually. And that sustainability piece is pretty big for us. I just finished a job in Northwich, not too far away, in Lostock Grayland, where we've got 3 electric points in there. So I'll have to go back and check what's in this, but that is something which we do on a lot of these jobs now.
We also want to encourage people to cycle, don't we? So is there somewhere for cycle places for people to put the bikes?
I'd have to check on that one, Bernadette, but just checking on my information, we are putting electric charging points in there. I'm not sure how much on the car park, how many on the car park, but there will be, we will be putting those in just to confirm.
Fab. And there were, I think it was actually quite near the hall, there was a barrel of car park racks, and that's on the plans that I just put up. There's one at each end from memory. I've closed it.
Bike racks.
Yes. What did I say?
Car
Just
park
racks.
No, it's not. It's not a whole car park. So I'm sure they're quite secure.
There is a cycle lane going there as well. I'm not sure on the position, but there will be a cycle lane too.
Fab. Any other questions, or we shall move on to Paul? Other Paul. No, well, thank you very much for coming along and talking to us. I'm sure as the site develops, if you want this opportunity again, we would welcome you. I think that would be good. The council is up for election in April or May. Soon, anyway. So you'll have a whole new raft of councillors potentially to come and talk to. So I'm sure I could encourage you on behalf of the future council, whatever that ends up being, is to engage with them as you have done with us.
Absolutely, more than happy to do that, and more than happy to partake in these things going forward. But we do feel that the communication channels are open now. We do feel that things are going to be way more informed than some of the issues what you have been in the past.
Well, we'll keep working together, keep talking to the hall as the stakeholder on site, and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks
for coming.
Bye.
Yeah. So I think next on the agenda is the Open Space Services Divisional Manager, Paul Wright. Paul, are you still on the call?
I am, yes. Hello and good evening, everybody. You'll have to, I'm on limited functionality with this Zoom because of the council system that I have to use, but hopefully you can all hear me. You won't be able to see me, but I can see and hear you all very well. So yeah, it was invited to come here tonight and provided with a number of questions. So I'm imagining that you would like me to talk you through those questions. Is that right?
That would make absolute sense.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's go through all the questions then. The first question that was asked of me via yourselves was, I feel Dorchester Park groundworks are being badly neglected. Walking around Sandy Moor, the bushes and trees have mostly been cut back and tidied up. So I kind of thought, oh, right, that one part of that saying that the place is neglected, and the other that we have mostly tidied up the trees and the bushes. Here's the things that have happened around Dorchester Park. Minor coppicing works have taken place at the beginning of the current winter schedule. So that's where we cut trees and shrubs, where we basically prune them or cut them down to base so that they spring back again. And there have been a number of those areas done this winter, and more areas will be done in the coming winter as well. This work, if you notice it borough-wide, not just in Sandymore, is done on a cyclical basis. Usually, not always, it can be a little bit longer or a bit shorter depending on situations, but it's usually cyclical on a 5-year coppice rotation. So there has been work done in that Dorchester Park area, which I'm guessing what people have seen, that the trees have been tied up and cut back. I imagine that's what has been seen there. Yes, we have done some of that there, and there is more areas in the Dorchester Park area being done next winter. Okay. The second question is the outskirts of Dorchester Park on Pittsheath Lane opposite Otterburn Street, and the pathway from Pittsheath Lane opposite Otterburn Street running into Dorchester Park is totally overgrown. The pathway, which used a lot, has almost disappeared due to fallen leaves and overgrown bushes, which badly need cutting back. And the answer to that one is the paths leading into Dorchester Park from Pittsheath Lane opposite Otterburn Street require some cutting back and a scrape to abate the overhanging vegetation. So we're going to cut the, scrape back the surfaces there. These works are scheduled to take place in the next 2 to 3 weeks before the grass cutting season really kicks in. So you can expect to see that in the next 2 to 3 weeks take place. In the winter, coppicing works, in the next winter coppicing works, there is quite a bit of work scheduled in for that area. As I said before, yeah, there's more works to come. There's quite a bit scheduled in for that particular area. So there will be works within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and more intensive works starting. We call our winter work starts mid-October, runs through to about mid-March. Okay. The third question is rubbish on the expressway. When will this full cleaning be done? There will be a major clean along the expressway that will take place between the 14th and the 22nd of April. And that will include all the area that you would probably describe as coming through Sandymore. And at the same, passing by Sandymore, at the same time, the grass will be getting cut as well. And then that will be done cyclically on a 6-week basis, reoccurring every 6 weeks through to October. And that's how we do the major expressways borough-wide. Okay. Question 4. Cherry tree, the Maisie Memorial is dead and the area is very wet and it's fallen over. Yes, I know, we are aware of this. We've found that the area over the last 4 or 5 years now is very wet in the winter, but then again, where hasn't been the last couple of winters. And a number of cherry trees have failed at that location. We think, talking to the Tree and Woodlands office today, that we might have to rethink what species we plant there, because clearly cherries are failing. Can
I just jump in there, Paul?
You can.
The reason it was a cherry tree is the cherry blossom, and this was primarily asked for by Maisie's Memorial, Maisie's parents, because that was Maisie's special tree, that they had one in the garden, and so it was that particular tree that meant something. So I think, if possible, if it could be looked at to move up the hill a bit where it's not pooling, that might be a better idea, and try and get a cherry tree to go there rather than change the species.
Okay, if that's acceptable, and there is indeed an area where what happens to some species is they just don't like the roots sitting in water like other species do. If that can be done, more than happy to do that. Suggest what we do then is have a little bit of engagement, maybe involve the family, have a look at the locations there, see if we can find a place, and we'll try another cherry tree or a number or a couple of cherry trees and see how we go. How would that suit?
That sounds great. Can the one that's died, that's been fallen, can that be removed though sooner?
Sorry, I should say, yeah, we will remove that. We'll
Thank
remove
you.
that very shortly indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
Question 5 was from Paula Dickinson, and actually relates to an issue that was very much an issue that she had with trees near to her house. It is an issue that has been dealt with in terms of we've responded to her in writing about our reasons for what we're doing. But in terms of overall answering what the parish might want to know, she said, through the Zoom meeting, can we ascertain what is considered an appropriate distance from property as the insurance, whoever they might be, quote, 15 meters away from property and height 30 meters not to impact on insurance policy? I see. It must, yes, probably home insurance or whatever. Yeah. Right, my answer to that is we do not have, there is nothing in our policy, in our tree and woodland strategy, with regards to distance. We don't have a minimum, a maximum distance for where trees are in relation to property. What we have is that there are only a couple of reasons why we would actually fell trees, only a couple of reasons. That one is that they're diseased, dying, and therefore dangerous. Obviously, we would fell them then. The other is if there is property damage occurring, we would fell them then. So if they're actually causing damage to property, but that means actually, causing damage to property, then we would fell them. Or that you take woodland coppicing, for example, so you've got a big piece of woodland. Well, obviously, you thin that, and so therefore the trees that you're taking out, you're taking them out to benefit other trees. They're the only reasons they're the primary reasons why we would fell trees, and there are no other reasons why we would. The tree and woodland policy is available as a PDF document. We can share that. Maybe I can share that by email with you after this event. But we do share that quite widely with residents when they write to us about trees. If it's by email, we tend to attach it and say this is our policy. So the question, if you like, rather than the situation as described, the question is, what do we think about this 15 meter and 30 meter? Well, I don't know. A insurance company might be saying those things. That we do not have a minimum or a maximum distance. Okay.
Listen, I don't know where this lady lives, Paul, but I know there was some years ago there was talk about looking at the trees that have been allowed to go a bit out of control along the expressway. There's some very tall ones which sway dramatically during periods of bad weather. And I think you visited with me back in 2015 and said shortly there was going to be a policy that would deal with how to tackle those trees that shouldn't have been allowed to have grown as large as they had. The tree policy doesn't seem to pick up on that. So is there a plan to do that?
Height isn't an issue for trees, and swaying certainly isn't an issue for trees. It's when they don't sway that you start to worry. In swaying, they're taking some of the energy out of the wind. That's a healthy tree. It can bend and shape. It's when they die that they can't.
And hits a house along the side of Oakmoor. So there's more that, this part one branch has fell down. There's nothing to stop other ones going the same way.
Oh, that can indeed happen. That can happen to trees. But what we do, height is not an issue that we would fell a tree for, right? We would fell a tree if we saw signs of, as I say, disease, dying, failure of, if we saw fungal growth on the limbs or whatever. But height in itself, it is not something that is an issue. Species, and I think that's what you might be alluding to when we were there, there are certain types of species, such as poplar, for example, that were planted extensively by the development corporations back in the day. Now, they are an issue in terms of the age of them. About 40 years, we start to get concerned about them. That are relatively short-lived species, and at about 40 years, we start to consider that is when they're going to start to fail and become a problem. And we do have, and again, it might be what we talked about. I can't remember, but it might be what we talked about when we're looking at trees. We do have a program to remove and replace poplars. We do that through felling licenses with the Forestry Authority. So, we agree what the replacement species are to be. And we have a program for them, but one of the things that's actually a major problem at the moment, that's back-footed that a little bit, and we've had to put a lot of resources into, including additional resources, bringing contractors in. Ash dieback is sweeping through the borough like you would not believe. So you will probably notice this summer, those that have an interest in this, just have a look in stands of trees and you will spot lots and lots of dead trees, and we're trying to work our way through them because, as I say, a dead tree is an issue. It doesn't sway in the winds, and down it comes in a strong wind event. So we are a bit back-footed on the poplar program. We haven't give up on it totally, but we are having to concentrate a lot of efforts on ash at the moment.
I believe the ones I'm referring to are ash, actually, so that's slightly concerning, but we will check.
Well, if they're ash and they're dead, they'll be coming out, and they'll be coming out as soon as they're dying. So that will happen.
So if we get contacted by a resident who's got that problem, do we just direct them to your form? You
can do. We're out and about looking. I've got officers out and about looking, but yes, you certainly can. If you see dead trees, if people are spotting dead trees, look, they don't come down the minute they die. We try and get them out as quick. They're not an immediate risk the minute they die, but we do want to know about them, because what we're doing is plotting all of them on maps and plans at the moment and building them into the work program. I mean, one of the issues I think we will get will be the opposite of perhaps what we're talking about here. I think we'll be getting a lot of criticism in the near future about just how many trees we're taking out. But believe you me, we'll be taking them out because they're dead, and we will be replanting.
Can I just mention there, Paul, that I did a walk around with Nigel. Well, we've done it every year since I joined. And it was about 2 years ago that we had the conversation of the ash dieback. Now, I believe this goes from tree to tree, and if they're in a row, then it'll go from one tree to the next. But because none of those trees have been taken out as yet, and we're 2-3 years down the line, that this has been made a bigger issue because those diseased trees hadn't been taken out 2-3 years ago.
We'd never, it would be an impossibility to take out every tree that's beginning to die now. Immediately, it would be an absolute impossibility to do. We just wouldn't have the resources to do that.
Well, it was going to be every other.
So were these dead and dying, or were they just ash trees?
Dead.
They were dead.
Sorry,
right.
I didn't mean to say that so loud and so abrupt.
No. And they're still standing at the moment, are they? We've done nothing on them yet.
You've done nothing on that. Nigel knows all about them. We've plotted where they were 2 and 3 years ago. We did it with the PCSO and the Woodland Trust. We do a walk round most years. Obviously couldn't because of COVID last year. And they've been plotted and they've been minuted and they've been discussed with Nigel for 3 years now.
Yeah, and I won't make any bones about it. It will take us 3 years to get to some. It depends where they are. But with them specifically, I'll see Nigel in the morning, I'll ask him, and I'll get him to ping you an email as to where they are on the work programme.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a big issue with trees in Sandymore, because obviously the trees were there before the residents were there, and so a lot of trees are now beginning to get to maturity, and I certainly have a lot of residents who are concerned about the size of some of the trees. Saying that they're only being taken out because they're dead or diseased isn't quite right, when 5 are being removed from the sunflower walk for Vistry to put a pipe down.
Yeah, I know. Things like that happen occasionally, and utilities can do that, and there's nothing we can do about it other than replace the trees and compensate for what they're doing. I do know about that, yes.
Because it was also more trees down sunflower that's coming out as well. So on that side of the sunflower, it's going to be very, very few trees. And with a lot of residents in the Morris homes down to the care home, it's going to leave them very open. And that a lot of residents are concerned about people being able to see into the houses, because there's nothing to stop those views now. Are there going to be small saplings? Are there going to be bigger trees? What's going to be replacing?
I think he's talking about standard trees. That is one that I haven't seen myself, but he did tell me about that pipe and how frustrated he was, because that whole run, which was a nice avenue, wasn't it? Just seems to have been getting picked at and picked off on. So I think he's talking about standard trees for there rather than whips. Whips are the little saplings.
And can they have some sort of support around the bottom? Because it seems to be when the landscapers are coming around with the strimmers, they're strimming into the trees, which is causing damage, which is meaning they're not growing.
Killing them. Yeah, we can have a look at that. They shouldn't be doing that, by the way, but yeah, it does happen. No. And so, I'll talk to I'll ask Nigel where he's up to with that. But I recall standard trees that we were going to be putting there to try and keep this avenue effect. Okay.
And do we know when they go in? Sorry.
I don't, but I can ask him again to feedback to you on that. Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
Okay. Holford Moss is the next one. Hasn't been adopted as yet, but grass around it is being maintained by HBC, who is responsible for repainting the metal fencing, not only of Holford Moss, but throughout Sandymore. We're wondering, Holford Moss doesn't form part of our managed green space yet, okay? So I don't know who is cutting the grass on Holford Moss. I'm not quite sure.
Not in Holford Moss. If you get to the roundabout where the pond is, and you've got Holford Moss on your left, that piece of grass in front of Holford Moss, Holtonborough Council are actually cutting.
Right, so that's like part of the highway infrastructure. You know what I mean, like verges. Yes, okay.
But we didn't know where the brick wall or the fence sat within that, whether that was part of your responsibility or what, because it seems to be no man's land.
The feedback my officers have given me is the area at Holford Moss, fencing, whatever's the metal stuff, isn't us. But then the further question is, throughout Sandymore, much of it is, much of the metal railings, we have metal railings, wooden fencing, etc. throughout Sandymore and other areas. That there's a lot of that in Sandymore, and we do have areas of that. The difficulty with your question there is, what bits? Because as you know, there'll be some owned by, still with the developers, some with us, some with homes and communities. Absolutely take on the chin that some areas of fencing are our responsibility. Yes, definitely.
Paul, can I ask a question? On the corner of Newmore Lane, opposite the entrance into Carmington, there's some Cheshire fencing, Cheshire railing that borders the the horse track there. It's on the corner, which I think is council land. That looks as if the cars run into it and it's all mangled and warped. Is that due to be replaced?
What I'm doing is, sorry, I'm just pulling up on my screen our mapping
Just to give you the
system.
information on that, Steve, I've been in touch with Homes England because part of the land around Swans Reach, including part of that area, still belongs to Homes England, and some belongs to David Wilson Homes because it's still not being adopted. So the railings, I think, are still in the property of Homes England, but they're looking into that for me on who actually owns that area. So Haltonborough Council cut the highway is 15 inches, is it?
Well, let's get the map up and have a look how big our verge is there, although it's been very slow.
Well, it's all very confusing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why would Morris Homes be involved in that corner there opposite Carmington?
Sorry, not Morris Homes. David Wilson Homes built Swans.
Oh, right, okay.
So some of it is still owned by them. Some of it is still owned by Homes England, but they can't clarify how much of it. And then Haltonborough Council cut the verge for the highways cut.
Who erected the fencing?
Homes England.
Probably one of the developers. I'm just looking, and it does seem that we've just got the verge. Yeah. It actually varies in size, Bernadette, it splays, but yeah, it goes from to what scaling this up, maybe 1 meter to 3 meters as it goes around the curve, but the fence is on land coloured grey, so that is, well, you've actually give a better answer than I could. You seem to think that's Homes England. Okay, right, okay, right. What is the council views on dogs off the lead on the village green or the Sunflower Walk that are not under control, as this has been reported to PCSO, but she advises it's HBC land? Well, the public highway is HBC land, but the police seem to be able to issue us with speeding tickets, don't they? I don't quite understand why she's saying that. Here's the facts. It's actually an offence for a dog not to be under the owner's control. The dog owner has to have a dog under control, whether it's on a lead or not, and that is something the police can deal with. It's actually irrelevant who owns the land. When out in a public place, or a dog owner has to have their dog under control. Now, what's my view on dogs off the lead? We've recently been through a whole exercise on this, and my view is that in informal open spaces, dog owners ought to be afforded the opportunity to let the dog off the lead and have, let it have a run, subject to it being under control. And there's a PSPO about this, a Public Spaces Protection Order, which determines where you can have dogs on the lead, off the lead, but it actually all says that, backs up the actual law that says dogs have to be under control. So any police officer, I don't know what powers PCSOs have, but certainly police officers could take action against people who don't have dogs under control. The status of the village green and the Sunflower Walk is, the status of that area is you can take a dog off the lead. You are allowed to do that. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it's just that if there's an issue with a dog off a lead that isn't being controlled, then that's sort of something that happens there and then, and not something that can be anything can be put in place. Whereas if a dog has to be on a lead, then it has to be on a lead. We've had a couple of incidents where people have been frightened by dogs, or that a dog has gone after another dog because it's not on a lead. And so these are the sort of questions I was getting from the residents.
Well, if you think, as a parish council, we did a whole public consultation, and there were the usual suspect areas where people didn't want dogs at all, right? Such as children's play areas, cemeteries, the likes of that. So that was easy. And there were the more formal parks in the borough where people wanted on leads only. So that was there. Now, Sandymore didn't come up in that public consultation, although I do recall residents of Sandymore took part in it. Many thousands of people took part in it. With regards to the PCS, the PSPO, getting all my PCs mixed up there, the Public Spaces Protection Order. If you think that there is a need to make the green and the sunflower walk a dogs on lead area, we could go down that route. We could amend the PSPO. What it would require would be public consultation. Okay, so we'd have to go out public consultation on that, and we'd have to have a reason why. So you do have to have a reason why you're considering this. So that could be people are feeling intimidated, all the things you've just described, and then you don't have to get a majority in favour. You don't have to. It's helpful. Yeah, and obviously, if you go against the majority, you need a good reason why you went against a majority in the public consultation. But effectively, you could do that if you wanted to, if you felt that would be worthwhile pursuing. It is something we could pursue. So if you want,
we would need to talk about that. We haven't had that conversation as a council. This is a question that's come in from a resident to us. Rather than a council discussion. So. Right.
Okay. So there you go. There's the answer. It isn't. You can take a dog off the lead there. It should be under control. That's the law of the land. But you can exercise a dog off the lead on all of those spaces. That is not an offence in itself as things stand. Should people feel that they wanted to change that, it could be changed, is my answer to that. Bridge replacement. When is it going to happen? Right. First bridge replacement will be completed, and that is the bridge over Keckwick Brook at the rear of Glastonbury Close, will be done by the end of this month, by the end of March. I know, yeah, okay.
Before we end up in Keckwick Brook.
Yeah, it will be done by the end of this month, okay? Yeah. The parts were all in the depot the other day. I was looking at that, ready to go out, and well, the parts have been there for ages. I think you know that, Bernadette. But the contractor is now appointed, and they're going to be fitting that by the end of this month, Nigel tells me. And then we'll follow the other bridges, okay, the refurbishment scope, with a plan to move on to the other bridges later in the year. So the first one will be done by the end of the month. The others will be done later in the year. There
was one that was dangerous as well, though, Paul. At the top end of Walsingham, before you go into the Barrett estate, on the right-hand side, there's a small bridge that goes upwards as if you're going to Windmill Hill. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah. Okay.
That bridge is dangerous. It's slippy. It's got holes in the walkover. So that bridge really could do with being.
Needs to be number 2, doesn't it? I'll have a word with them tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, I'll have a word about that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, 9. Oak fencing and benches throughout Sandymore have fallen into disrepair. Some have started to be removed. Can you please advise on what is to be removed and what is to be replaced and the timeline? We've removed a lot of old fencing that we regard as defunct, in that originally it went up and there was planting behind it, but that planting is established now, so there is no point in it. There's no point in a piece of infrastructure if there's no point in a piece of infrastructure. With regards to removal of more or replacement of things, I'll have to be dead honest with you. At present, there is no timeline for that. Gary was explaining that he went round with you, Bernadette, and a lot of what was identified as being particularly bad at that time has been done now, and that might be what people are getting at with this question. We'll be doing another walk around of that type. You know, we had a discussion about it today, in the coming weeks, to identify anything else that might
The
need to be
Windmill
removed
Hill
or
end,
replaced.
there's a lot of wooden fences that are falling down. Parts of them are falling down, and that. So the top of Windmill Hill, there's quite a lot of fencing.
Are they fences that, in your opinion, need to exist or not need? Do you know what I mean? Are they actually stopping anyone getting from one place to another, or are they just fences that demark where vegetation was planted? Because if they are the latter, I could quickly get them removed.
They're not the latter.
They're
more decorative than anything. They're the beginning
right.
of Sandymore, and I think that's why they were put up there in the first instance, to sort of start Sandymore. But they are in a bad state. I mean, whether they could be fixed, because I think all the pieces are there, or more or less. So whether they can be fixed, I don't know. It would take someone to have a look.
Okay,
at
I feel a walk around your area coming on next
Beautiful
week, so
area.
I'll go and have a look. I know it is indeed. Okay, so we'll have a look at that.
Yeah.
Now 10. What is planned for Sandymore in 2021-22 playground-wise? Playground replacement work outside of the normal work, and I assume you mean they're the guys that come and do all the weekly works.
Yeah.
Okay, a play area refurbish program is constantly ongoing on an annual basis. We assess play areas are assessed and works are allocated by our design and development team in liaison with the actual operational parks people. Okay, and that's done through a computerized system that's actually called PlaySafe, and in that all of our playground assets are held. We know the age of them, we know the condition, we know the failures of parts, so we have a full history of what goes on. Because, as you probably know, every play area is visited every week, gets a full engineering inspection, and all of the maintenance is carried out. What typically do we see as a major criteria for allocation of works as part of the refurbishment? Well, health and safety issues requiring immediate attention, and that's A. And B, phase replacement of surfacing and equipment on sites, because it's come to, its natural end. In terms of current condition, the play areas in Sandymore are considered to be in good condition, not in excellent condition. They're considered to be in good condition, with minor issues which were being getting addressed as required. The biggest issue in Sandymore has been the shrinkage of wet pour safety surfacing, which is an age thing really, and that's actually because we did a lot of play areas around about the same time. It's quite common everywhere. So that's been prioritised, as has the replacement of self-closing gates, which are another feature that have a limited lifespan due to the fact that, they're in constant use. So that's how we found things. There is an issue with the seesaws at Newmore Lane and Pitts Heath. Okay, they are past the sell-by date, really. They're compliant with the standards, because they have to be, or we'd remove them instantly, but we're going to replace them in the very near future. Okay, the Walsingham Drive site is also going to benefit this year with the replacement of some items to increase play value. So these are the things that are happening. Newmore Lane play area, replacement of all wet pour safety surfacing, coming soon, and phased over 2 years. So we'll be doing blocks around there, phased over 2 years. Pitts Heath play area, 2 number self-closing gates are going to be added. Walsingham Drive play area, replacement of 1 self-closing gate and 2 benches. Okay, and their works proposed for this financial year. Okay, works proposed.
Forgive me, but I was told that 3 years ago, Paul.
Were you? Well,
Yeah,
Martin is actually. These are now tenders let. Okay, so I can tell you that because Martin's been doing that. So these are tenders let. When we finish this work in this financial year, in this coming financial year, so it'll be, you know, in the spring, that's when he's looking at some of these works. We'll complete the program of self-closing gates, so we'll be on top of that then. So that's what he's saying to me. And the other works are Newmore Lane play area. We're replacing 3 self-closing gates and 1 seesaw. So quite a bit going on in children's
painting
play
be done?
areas.
The fence
Painting will be, yes, it will. We'll get that done at the same time as we do the wet pour. I'll ensure that all the painting is done then.
Fabulous.
Okay. 11, I wasn't so sure about what you meant. That the update on the adoption of old areas. What
Yeah,
are the
just whether you'd
old
heard
areas?
anything. I know it's normally Jonathan and Claire that deal with the adoptions. But Halford Moss still hasn't been adopted. Swans Reach still hasn't been adopted, although that's going through the process of being put right, if you like, with the developers. But there's a lots of pockets of areas within Sandymore that still haven't been adopted. And it was if you had any updates on those, or if you could just get
I'm afraid. I'll ask John. I'll ask Jonathan. And then here's the most exciting question you've asked me. Oh, they were all exciting. Is anything planned for the village green? I've had in the past discussions with the parish council. I would love to actually, my vision, and hopefully it'll be something that you'd love to see as well, is to really make the village green Sandymore's go-to parkland, you know, go-to place. So I would love to develop for Sandymore village green and connecting spaces that are ours, a development master plan. That's what we do, by the way, for sites. That's what has been done for sites like Town Park, which is into about year 3 of that now, and there's major investment going on there after there being none for about 30 years, I should point out. So we are putting major investment into that. Ones that other people might be familiar with that have been through exactly that process, Runcorn Hill, I bet you're all familiar with that. It's a very popular site that people like to go to with the cafe up there. I would like to do this for the village green, because the way we look at the areas of the borough is we like all the major areas of the major neighbourhood areas of the borough, the major parts, if you like, component parts. So if I was talking about Runcorn, we'd say the major park for the old town area of Runcorn, or the far west side of Runcorn, is Runcorn Hill. It's not the only park that's there, but it's the one with the cafe, you know what I mean, the multi-variety of facilities. For the original part of the new town, the 60s, 70s new town, we regard Town Park as that, and we're on that now. It took us about 8 years to get on that, but if anyone's been there recently, you see massive changes, and it's being very well received. Now, I would see then the Far East side of the south of the river, Sandymore, up to Daresbury and everything, as needing something similar. It doesn't have to be the same size. They're all different sizes anyway. There's nothing bigger than Town Park and Victoria Park, which is Widnes's go-to site. Relatively small in the scheme of things. I would really like to engage with you, with the parish council, to develop that. It's something I've wanted to do for a few years now. Get sidetracked into other things. I'd like to get that ball rolling if you were up for it. Now, again, just to be realistic about where we're at with the multiple projects that we're on at the moment. There's been a phenomenal amount of projects thrown at the team in recent times. The biggest one that's exercising one person has for a whole year, the Runcorn Station Quarter. We're really sort of tied up in that very, very large scheme. But so I've got in mind that in about 12 months' time, I would like to start the process that would result in the village green. I mean, look, I was listening before, I was interested in hearing about the shops, the centre, the village centre, and I'm thinking while I'm listening to that, right, well, right opposite that is the village green, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so I'm really keen on that, and if you are, I would like to work with you to develop a master plan. The way that works is we develop the master plan, we get it adopted, and then we can go for funding pots, which do exist. And in terms of capital works seem to never be the problem. It's always the revenue that is the problem. But there are funds that do exist that will allow us to really do something exciting there to give the people of Sandymore a real go-to parkland public space. Does that accord with what
well, we
Well, that would match with what we said when we came to see you near the recycling centre back in 2016. You showed us the master plan developed for Crowwood Park in Widnes. And we said, absolutely, that's the sort of thing, different shape and suitable for the area, but that's what we would like to occur on the village green. I think it's encouraging to hear there's 8 years it took you to do the last one, because that means we're 6 years into ours already. So hopefully in 2 years we can finish it off.
I
am actually quite serious for that. We've been waiting 6 years to have the development. We need it to happen now.
Yeah, no, I know. And it did take 8 years to do Town Park. It was a big, massive task and daunting. So it did take that long to do. It took about the same for Runcorn Hill. That does not mean this would. I'm thinking of developing something in getting the groundwork going this year and having a master plan going forward for adoption in about 12 months' time. That's what that's what I have in mind.
Paul, we had a recent meeting with David Parr and Tim Gibb, and one of the things that I suggested at the meeting was that for Sandymore that we develop a short, medium and long-term plan that we would put together and send back to them. And Tim said that he would certainly look at dovetailing in any available funding opportunities that there might be to be able to develop those things. And very much as a parish council, we want to avoid the massive cost of a neighbourhood plan. So the idea was to put together something that was more cohesive for that short and medium, probably more than long-term view, which is something that probably won't come out before the council elections. But if there's anybody left, then maybe it could work then, and that'd probably be a great time to maybe have a Zoom call with you to start to discuss some specifics of that, particularly as you seem to be so enthusiastic about getting it going.
Just thinking we have got elections coming up, Paul. Would we be okay to use that? This is what Halton want to do alongside us to actually encourage people to take part, because I think we are slightly worried that we're not going to get enough councillors standing. So we might get a bit more eagerness.
Yes. You see, I have in mind how this might all work, which I don't want to go into too much detail now, but there are a number of things I have in mind of how we would actually do the capital work side of it, and B, how we might then look after it. There's an opportunity there going forward as how we would staff it, if you like. You can. It is actually on the design and development team work plan from when you came, but we've not. It's on the plan with a list of other projects that we've adopted, if you like, as projects, but it's not been taken any further forward. I'd really welcome, getting together and taking it forward.
Well, we did
Ian.
plans with, remind me of his name, Adam, at planning. Nick. Was it Nick?
Yes.
Yeah. Nick. Can't remember his surname.
Nick Martin.
Nick Martin.
Yeah, that's right. And he actually drew up a plan for the village green, because it was something that we were hoping there was money left over from the S106 monies that we're still talking to David Parr and Tim about.
And it'd be Nick whose team I would be engaged on there. So,
So
whatever he's done might come in very useful. Yeah.
So they've started with
that down.
Putting things in place. I think we had about 3 meetings with Nick. He did about 3 different designs. We've started that process, if that helps.
It does help, and as I say, I knew it was a project that is on our list. It's probably I know what's happened to Nick's team over the last year or two. They've been swamped with major projects. So that will be very helpful, and I will talk to him tomorrow about how we might dovetail what's already done into a cohesive plan for how we do it and where we get the funding from. And brilliant. I'll speak to Tim Gibbs as well, because if there's money that we can get our hands on there, we can accelerate what we do.
For me, that's
any other
fabulous
comments from
news.
councillors on this, or any questions for Paul? I know Paul Hazeldean, I've seen you've got your hand up. I'll let the councillors come in and then I'll bring you in.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I like the sound very much of what you've just been saying, Paul, and I would also emphasise the urgency of it. You talked about Town Park and Runcorn Hill, and both of those are relatively stable, or were. They were an area which you could work on over time. Sandymore and the surrounding areas, I'm also thinking of over into Daresbury, around Delph Lane, lots of development, lots of work going on. I would fear that if we don't move reasonably quickly, we may be looking at some development housing or whatever and saying, oh, what a shame, if we'd only put in for a few acres there, that would have connected up, made a really nice area. So I think we should push for this as a matter of urgency before it's too late, before planning decisions are made, particularly around the placement of housing that we would now regret, or that we would like to at least debate.
I agree, and that's why we like the adopted master plan approach, because once that's adopted, planning that is, we're setting out what the park is, what the green is, call it the village green, and then they don't get developed upon. So I would agree with you.
I mean, I think clearly we're not going to have a large chunk of connected, coherent space like those other 2 parks, the Runcorn Hill and the Town Park. I would imagine that the space around here is going to be more of a sort of octopus of ribbons of woodland, ribbons of green, connecting places like the village green as slightly larger ones. And that's where I think it's important to get a coherent plan, because that depends on the connectivity, and one missing piece could make the whole thing much less valuable.
Spoils it. Yeah, it does. Again, I'd agree with you on that, but I think on the village green itself and the sunflower walk that links in with that can be a focal point of that space, can't it? It's going to be right next to the centre. Shall we say? If there's a centre to a central point in Sandymore, that is it, isn't it? That is what is developing there with the shops, the village hall, the village green. So that and then yes, it spreads out into perhaps more informal spaces, but they're designed and branded in such a way that the paths, the infrastructure, so that it feels that you're in the same Sandymore space, even if it is that octopus. I think that's what we could achieve.
Good.
Okay.
Paul Hazeldean, did you want to come in? You had some comment to make?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I think Councillor Secker is absolutely right, and Paul, equally, you are right. you know, you're driving traffic to Sandymore Village Green, and you know, okay, there's debate whether is it a village green or is it not a village green. It's a village green. So let's just celebrate it's a village green. However, the more traffic that we drive to the village green, I'm sorry to harp on about concrete and tarmac, but the more car parking spaces you need for a village green. And you look at those, Paul Wright, you know, Runcorn Hill, you look at further afield, Appleton Thorn, they've got a football pitch, a local football pitch. You look at the town park, each one of those facilities, each one of those greens has its own car parking facilities. And yet Sandymore Green, we're driving traffic to the co-op, the community hall, 4 retail units, potentially a nursery, potentially accommodation for over 55s with limited car parking. So we're going to drive and celebrate the village green. Where are they going to park? And I do think, and car parking is going to be a big issue, because if we're not careful, all of those invested interests are going to migrate into the local streets. And I can't remember the street that goes alongside. It's the new build that runs alongside. Somebody help me, please.
Alongside where, love?
Alongside the
Biggleswade. Biggleswade. That one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Sir.
the one with the townhouses.
That's the one. So, you know, Biggleswade is going to be infested. So, Mr. Wright, I totally endorse, you know, drive footfall, drive, celebrate the village green on Sandymore. Absolutely celebrate it. However, look at other areas and see how they have modeled themselves and gone, right, there's a facility. Where does the traffic park? Because a co-op's going to get busy. 5 retail units are going to get busy. The amount of dogs that I've seen walking on Sandymore over the last 12 months, the vet is going to be really, really busy. So where is this traffic going to park? And I would suggest that somewhere on the village green, I don't know where, but somewhere on the village green, there is space for 20, 30 car parks, whether it's a cinder track, whether it's gravel with whatever it is, however it is. I think facilities within the village green for parking needs to take place.
That's really helpful feedback, and obviously as we work with Halton to develop, I think we'll make sure those comments are heard loud. John, did you want to come in?
Yeah, it's just like a small problem that I've come across. I'd like to ask Paul about because I've not been able to get any satisfaction from this particular little problem. It's where council trees on council land are overgrowing private gardens or even damaging private fences. And I can get no sort of sympathy from the council officers about what they can do about it. They think it's the residents' problem to lop off branches and sort their own fences out and things like that. Can Paul tell me that's not the case?
I can't tell you that's not the case, John, because it sort of is. Basically, the council has no obligation to do anything about a tree. It's a naturally growing thing that overhangs somebody else's property. Okay, that's just overhanging the property. I'll come back to the damage at the moment. So it has no obligation to do anything. The residents, or so let's split it into landowners. So the council's a landowner somewhere. It has a tree on its land, and some of those branches overhang that other landowner or the resident's garden there. The council has no obligation to do anything about that, no obligation to do anything at all. However, there are two things. where we can, we try and be good neighbours where we can. And if it's not at detriment to the tree and something can be done and we have the resources to do it, we'll do some works if we can. We'll never destabilise a tree by cutting sort of one side of it out, so that's one of the problems that we're often faced with. In law, though, and this is what we say to residents, and often then that gets fed back, oh, the council's just telling me to do it. In law, you have a riparian right to cut. So if you imagine where your boundary is and going up into the sky, anything overhanging, you have a right to cut at that point. You have that right as a individual to do that. Gets more complicated. However, in doing that, if you damage or destabilize the tree, you may be liable for that, and that's where this thing gets complicated.
Well, that's not fair.
In terms of damage, and the same applies to other people and us and the council. So the same applies to other landowners and their trees. To overhanging our land, the same applies. It's just a landowner, and that is the way that things work in this country. However, you said about us damaging fences. If we've damaged somebody's fence, and that can be proven that we have, that our tree has damaged their fence, then we are liable for that damage. That is dead simple. It is a fact that, if our tree has damaged your fence, we are liable for that damage.
And when you say if it can be proven, are you wanting video footage, or if there's a big branch on the floor with a broken fence panel, are you going to accept that's fell off the tree?
Oh, absolutely. That's the simple one. And if only they were all that simple.
Yeah.
But often what you actually get is people going, look what you've done to this fence, and you go there and you see a 30-year-old fence that has fallen to pieces because it's rotted. Do you know what I mean? And then they're going, your vegetation has done that, and we would dispute that, and rightly so. But if there's absolute clear-cut evidence that our tree or our vegetation has damaged somebody's property, we are liable for that. And the same works the other way around as well.
Right.
A landowner is liable for the things on their land and what that might do to others.
So I think, that might be the case, but in the case of where people are elderly and can't do it themselves, they're facing financial circumstances to get a tree cutter in to do it for them, to dispose of the branches that they cut off. In the case of the fence, this was in Woodthorn Close, I think, and it was the trees that were growing down from the embankment into the fences there that I couldn't get any satisfaction from the council, where the trees were growing into the fence and pushing the fence down.
I'm surprised that if it could be clearly shown. I'm surprised, John. I don't know. You maybe drop me an email tomorrow about the individual case, and I'll look into it. But I'm surprised if there was clear evidence that our trees had damaged that fence that nowhere was got, because the householder, the resident, would have had recourse to come after us, if you like, to for redress for that damage, and we would have been liable for that. I don't know how the thing panned out, but maybe we could have a chat about that tomorrow.
I think this was a case of a single lady who just couldn't afford to do anything about it, and eventually got somebody to help her, a neighbour or something, but she couldn't get any satisfaction from the council whatsoever. She'd have had to find the money to replace the fence, with photographic evidence and things like that, and she didn't feel she could do that.
I see.
I had the council officer down there and couldn't get any satisfaction, Paul. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Send me a little bit of details about it. I'll have a look and maybe I'll be able to give you a more fuller answer, John, as to what happened in that individual case.
So in cases where it's just overhanging trees or something that people can't afford or not fit enough themselves to do it, you wouldn't step in there and help out?
We wouldn't know, John, because that would not be one of the problems is we've a lot of trees in the borough, a lot, and
You've got a
we were
million.
talking before about, yeah, we have, as you know, don't you? And limited resources, and dash dieback, and poplar that's coming to the end of its life. If we'd be doing nothing else other than sort of cutting trees back that overhang people's properties. And as I say, there is no obligation on that. There's no obligation on us to do that, as there isn't the other way round. There's no obligation on a landowner.
The expressway is that the trees have been allowed to grow to such a height and so out of control. I mean, I live opposite Woodthorne, so I know that area very well. But the tree that's next to my house, I would need 30 foot of ladders just to get to the first branch that's growing towards my house. Now, at some point, it's going to hit the house, and that's very easy for me to come after you with. But there's no physical way I can address that until then.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like the council's saying, let it damage your house, and then we'll sort it.
No, because what the other layer of things that go on is we do have a regime of inspection of trees, and we do then prioritize the dangerous. So if when that tree was looked at that's behind your property, we thought there is a clear and present danger, if you like. So Nigel, when he goes out and does them inspections, finds fungus growing at the base of that tree, then that would go as a tier 1 priority and be removed.
How long does he inspect?
Yeah, I think the problem is last time I was inspected and all was fine, and then the next thing we knew, it had come down through my shed roof, and I'm not an unusual case along that expressway.
That can happen and does happen, and there are many cases where that has happened, and that can happen, because there can be unseen things in trees that you can't see. That are inside them or whatever.
Branches growing over the border, and it was obvious something was going to happen, and yet the response was, no, we're not going to touch. Our tree policy is not to touch that. There was no doubt that was going to occur, and it was allowed to occur, I'm just glad there wasn't much damage, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, again, I'd have to look at specifically what happened there, but I'm assuming if we were not going to touch it, it was because when we did inspect it, it was deemed not to be a risk.
It was about a foot away from the house at that point, with quite a thick branch growing in that direction.
Right.
Well,
okay.
I'm going to wrap this section up because we've allowed a lot of time for our visitors. I think that was valuable because we've heard some
very good
from both visitors. So thank you for attending.
Thanks for inviting me.
There, Paul.
Sorry, Adam. Sorry, I just had like a question or two questions. I didn't get an opportunity to ask them. I wanted to just take it back to the suggestion to develop the village green. A couple of ones. One, if there was going to be development on the village green, how would you be looking to deal with the waterlogging there? Because when it's dry, the village green already gets quite a lot of use, but then about 3/4 of the year, if you go past, then nobody's using it during the day because it's waterlogged a lot of the time.
Well, one of the sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
You want to ask a supplementary question? No, I was going to say about waterlogging is, look, actually, we want water to be sitting on green spaces more than we want it flooding out people's houses. So it's a difficult one, this. So I see what you're saying, and it'd be possible to raise paths, say, and things, but there's often a clamour for drainage, and drainage is all right if it's got somewhere to go. But if your water table's that high, drainage is pointless and useless. And actually what we're trying to do as a nation at the moment is hold water back on green spaces and allow it to gently percolate away. Because if you're feeding it somewhere else where it's appearing, as we're seeing often now, winter after winter, and I need not tell you in Sandymore, the sort of risks that you have there, flooding, because you've all seen it. Sorry. Oh, was that? Sorry, I thought someone was asking something there. So my point is, whatever we do as a development there, by that I mean green development, whatever we do, to improve that for visitors, we'd have to be very, very careful about what we do with saturated ground, because just feeding it further into Sandymore somewhere else might give us a major problem for somebody. So we would have to be very careful what we do.
Yeah, so I understand that. It would just be in terms of actually developing anything else on the green, then the usage on the green would be affected by the waterlogging there.
Yeah.
So obviously,
I mean, I don't misunderstand me on development. I'm thinking green development. I'm thinking parkland and maybe improve paths, signage. I'm not thinking about the built development at all. I'm thinking about sort of making that and it might be you can still have your areas that are damp, but we could raise paths here and there so that it is accessible all year round for people, but maybe they can't go everywhere on it all year round because it is a bit damp in the winter, but you can walk along a decent path that's half a metre higher than the mean average of the ground.
Okay, and also I'm not sure if there's actually particularly a question in what I'd be saying here, but the area at the moment when I'm seeing it, then most of the usage of the village green is on the part like up nearer to the hall and also the road nearer to Biggleswade Drive, so the northeastern part of the green, and then the southwestern part of the green near the Sunflower Walk, which is about half of the green, doesn't really get used for anything. It just sits there, and then people sometimes kind of traipse through there to get to the other end of the green. So if there were changes, then I would wonder if particularly that part that doesn't get much use at the moment, more things could be done with that, because the northeastern part is popular the way it is at the moment, but the southwestern part isn't. It's just kind of there and doesn't get used.
Yeah, that's a valid point and something that we could consider, because if it gets too congested around the entrance play area part of it, you can see why that's popular. You want to draw some of that human traffic, don't you, further into the site to sort of spread the load. Yeah, we can look at that.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Anything else from anyone before we move on? Paul, you're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. I can't imagine why on earth you would.
For all of us.
I think I'll duck out, but thank you for inviting me tonight. It was good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Okay, see you now.
See you soon.
Bye.
Superb. So we are not 9:05. So I think we can probably race through the rest of it. I don't think there's anything massive on the agenda to talk about. But I'm just sort of letting you know I'm going to have to go quite quickly to make sure we're finished at a reasonable hour. So first of all, is there anything in correspondence received by the clerk you want to mention, Bernadette?
Most of the correspondence were for the two guest speakers that we've had. The only other one I'd like to draw your attention to is the parish election timetable. So we all know now that the parish council elections will take place on Thursday, the 6th of May. If anybody is interested in becoming a parish councillor, I'm sure you will all back me up and say it's a fabulous thing to do, and we need more people to be able to discuss matters and to take matters further. So please, in the first instance, contact myself on an email, clark@sandymoreparishcouncil.gov.uk. The notice of publication was on the 15th of March. The deadline for receipt of nominations is 4 o'clock on the 8th of April. Now, I've asked if you can get those papers back to me by the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of April, and then I will take all the papers over together to Halton Borough Council so they don't have too many people turning up at Grosvenor House with their own individual election packs. Please make sure when you return your election packs to me, it does also include all the private information. So the the list of who lives where, purely for GDPR, those all need to come back in and all need to go back to Halton Council.
Well, I didn't do that last time. I've still got the
Did
old
you
one.
not?
No.
Naughty boy. Don't say a thing. I didn't hear that.
I couldn't say where it is. It's been shredded.
But why did we get that list? Do you know why did they give us that?
It's detailed in the packs, actually, why you've got it. It's if it goes to election, if you wanted to do any personally addressed canvassing.
Oh, okay.
So it shouldn't come in at nomination. It should come in later down the line if need be, because you might need it if we get more than 8 people standing.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, so spread the word. Anyone that's listening on YouTube, anyone that's that the parish councillors now know that might also be interested, get them to contact myself, Bernadette Clark at Sandymore Parish Council.gov.uk, and I will get a pack to them as soon as possible. Okay, that's me done.
Brilliant. So next item on our agenda is public participation. We only had one notice ahead of the time about speaking at the meeting, which was for Mr. Hazeldine, who's already spoken about his point. So I'm going to propose we skip past it in the interest of time, and given that we've had no further requests coming in. I'll take silence as assent. Item 7 is to consider and comment upon planning applications.
The planning application were both from the local centre, one being a BT mast that or post, wooden post that will stand 6.35 metres out of the ground, that will be in front of the shops area. So if you've been down Otterburn Street recently, there's a metal cabinet that has appeared. It will be to the left of that metal cabinet, just 3 metres, I think it is, back from the edge of the path. The other one is the change to the roofing of the bungalows, and also the nursery not being in phase 1. So those again have been covered by the local centre guys this evening.
Okay, well, and we don't need to comment on those. They were largely procedural, non-material adjustments or advanced about the advertising signs, weren't they? So
correct.
There's no need for consultation that I'm aware of. Minutes from the meeting of February. Hopefully councillors have all had a copy of those. Is there any comments, firstly, for accuracy? Is there any comments that we need to do?
Nothing that I saw. Looked okay.
And okay, so you're happy I sign these as a true and correct account? Are there any actions, Bernie, that are outstanding?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that we were looking at. The first one was the regulation, the financial regulations. We've had a financial meeting, and it's been decided that we're going to put the paragraph in that we've been asked to put in. It's from the standard model of the NALC, and it is it all forms part of the tender process. If we don't put it in, then anything over £1,000 will need to be tendered. We need to use the government tender forms. So we're going to put in the NALC standard that will mean anything over 25,000 will then need to go to tender, and also onto the government tender website as well. So that's to be amended and will be signed off next month once those amendments have been agreed. So that's that one.
Did we get the funding available from the incinerator from Councillor Bradshaw?
I've received that this morning from Marjorie. Thank you, Marjorie. The INEOS Runcorn Energy from Waste Section 106. So I will scan that in over the after the meeting, and you can all have a look at that. Marjorie, do I return this to you?
No, it's just anything you want to use it for.
Yeah.
Where do I send it though?
Oh, to what's his name?
Who is it?
Let me know.
Our planning officer.
Tim Gibbs.
No,
No.
the one below him, Andrew.
Andrew
Andrew.
Plant.
Andrew Plant.
Andrew Plant it is. Yeah.
Okay. I will scan that in and send it out to you all. And what we can do is look at the wish list that we've received to see if that can be populated. So I'll put that on the agenda for next month to discuss in full council, please.
Superb. Okay, so I've signed those. So item 9 is Parish Council Finance. So just a report for people who are watching. Receipts, we've had nil. Payments made, we've made payments of £3,874.38. £101.11 of that is VAT, which we are able to reclaim. These are our professional fees for our surveyor, worth £900 of that. We've got the training for Chalk for £30. Our insurance, which is £910, the salary and the tax elements for our clerk, the website maintenance with the software that does it of £75 a month, which is our standard fee, and our Microsoft Office 365 license of £21.12. Are councillors happy to approve those payments? You should have all had sight of them beforehand. Yeah.
Yes.
Who is it? Because Colin had to drop away. He did send me a message that he's had a personal incident to take care of. Who is it that's got the authority to approve them for you, Bernie?
Colin will be approving them as long as we're happy within this meeting. We've got it minuted. So I will drop him an email and ask him to authorise those when he can.
That's brilliant. If you need that confirming, let me know and I can confirm that to him. There is a note on the bottom of mine around the appraisal. What needs to be enacted from the people who conducted the clerk's appraisal? Is that all in hand?
Simon did the appraisal as my line manager. The appraisal notes are all on the shared drive under HR if you want to have a look at those. And my salary as per contract will go up 1 point on the NALC scale. That again is all on the appraisal notes that Simon and I have done. That
from
hasn't
a
been
councillor point of view, do we just need to agree that the appraisal has been done as we've delegated it to, and we're just enacting that?
Yeah.
Any comments or any queries to the side of that? No? Brilliant.
Mention anything like this, like trading standards.
Good.
And then item 10 is to consider and agree any further actions from the clerk's ongoing action plan. Is there anything you want to raise with us, Bernie?
I've not had a wish list off everybody. I've only had 3 wish lists. So if you haven't done me a wish list, can you bung that over? Then we can put it on the next month's agenda to go through for the INEOS money.
Did you receive mine?
Did I receive yours? Yeah.
Because I sent it from a different
I got
email
yours. Yeah.
account, so
Yeah.
Got to sort out mine.
Yeah, got yours. No problem.
Cool. Then any other business? We have flood defences as a standard agenda. Have we got any update or anything to raise?
No
there?
update. No.
I think that's us. So we've done it 9:15. That's not bad given the length of time we gave to the developers. So,
And our 3rd parish council meeting in the last 3 days.
blimey, have you been doing a little road show?
Oh, well done. Have you done Daresbury?
Yes, last night.
I believe Jill's moved over there now.
Yes.
She's lovely, Jill. She's from Penketh.
Yeah, she is nice. Yeah.
So am I.
How long are the other meetings, John? How
Pardon?
long are the other parish council meetings?
Not as long as this one.
Well, not tonight, but they vary.
No,
Daresbury
they do
sort of-
vary.
They vary depending on, they have to discuss basically.
Yeah, with having the local centre, and it was always going to be a longish
It was
a
indeed.
longish meeting anyway.
When you've
but
got guest
useful.
speakers like that, where you want to answer them to answer questions, I mean, it's always going to take longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
We
why we
haven't
missed the
given a
area
guest that
forum
amount of time
meetings.
since the school. So it's a
I've
big
not heard
infrastructure.
anything from your parish council about the DALP, delivery and allocations plan.
The what, sorry?
The delivery and allocations plan that the council's putting forward to. No,
I have a blank
it's-
expression because I don't know what you're on about.
well, it's the plan for the borough as a whole. And Daresbury have engaged their own expert planning consultant, so have more, about the issues that removal of the green belt and things like that.
I think we had no comment because Sandymore is already
I
fulfilling
thought that'd
those.
be the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the more rural wards with a lot of space like that they don't want, and
I think
the incursions of Warrington on the moor border and things like that.
One thing we did raise very briefly was around the infrastructure and the road network to support such development, particularly that proposed in Moor and Daresbury, actually, so the Red Road and the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Have they not been fed back in then?
Well, by whom? You?
I thought we had.
We have.
Oh,
we had commented on it. Yeah.
Oh, I see. All I said was that I've not heard it raised in your parish council meeting.
It was a few months ago, wasn't it, that we discussed it?
But we haven't gone to the lengths of getting a planning consultant or anything like that.
No, I don't think you need to.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of
over in Daresbury, where they're talking about cutting out the green belt for various areas of Daresbury, is quite concerning, and certainly in Moor as well.
Well, I think it impacts everybody, doesn't it? It doesn't just be, if it's near, we don't want to lose what we have.
No.
Brilliant.
Next meeting.
Yeah, next meeting is April the 15th at 7 p.m. I think that will be the last one of this current council, will it not? And as far as I know, Simon is back and chairing again.
Yes.
So brilliant. Well, thank you very much for tonight. And I wish you well. I will see you again in a month.
Thank you for standing in, Chair.
Welcome.
Yes, indeed. Thanks.
Hey, Bernadette, where did you get that psychedelic bull from?
Oh, it's a Steve. Let me think. Steve Brown. I've got a couple of them. I've got a purple one and I've got a less purple one. So Steve Brown, you can get them on internet, and they do all animals. He does giraffes, monkeys, all sorts.
Oh, Steve Brown.
Steve Brown. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you all.
I forgot he was there. Right, well, thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Nighty night.
Yeah,
Night night.